Yes! What is up, everybody? And welcome to another installment of the Qué Golazo podcast, but most specifically, the U.S. Men's National Team Hour with two of your favorite former U.S. Men's National Team players, Conrad and Heath Pearce. We're going to break down all the action as we've seen from our U.S. Men's National Team players around the world, most specifically in Europe, most specifically in Germany, most specifically with Ricardo Pepe, and of course, some of the other players that may or may not be playing as much as we'd like. And we have a very special guest today, an absolute beast in the game in North America for Canada and MLS. Dwayne de Rosario is joining us to talk about Canada's hopes and really the best chance that they have to qualify for the World Cup since 1986. The U.S. Men's National Team Hour begins right now. What is up, everybody? It's Conrad alongside Heath Pearce. Dwayne de Rosario is going to be joining us very shortly, but Heath, before we get to him, we got to talk about Ricardo Pepe. He made his first start for Augsburg in the Bundesliga, played 84 minutes in a 1-1 draw against Eintracht Frankfurt. Were you pleased with his performance?
Jimmy, what an intro, by the way. Can we talk about that? Was very good. That was very strong. And for anybody that's listening to this or watching this, that was full off-the-cuff freestyle from Jimmy, which is really impressive, you know.
Thank you.
I'm trying not to focus too much on how he played. If you just saw, there was a stat that just came out that Kicker had him, Kicker Magazine, which is, for anybody that doesn't know, is sort of the most well-regarded ratings magazine, or the newspapers do all their ratings of all the matches and stuff. It's probably the highest regarded in terms of the professionalism and the analysis of it. He had the second lowest of the team, I believe it was. Derek Gray put it out, and it was either the second lowest of the team or second lowest on the day. Only had 34 touches, didn't have a lot of goal-scoring opportunities. But for me, I thought it was a solid debut. I think, again, we're caught up in this world of, he's just going to go in and score all the way through. And it's funny now, not to jump off a topic, but if you look at what Mbappe's doing, if you look at what Erling Haaland's doing compared to what Messi and Ronaldo did in their early days at the same age, they're like miles ahead of those guys. And so I guess the whole point I'm trying to make is that, you need time. Everybody develops at a different speed. Their coach kind of went out and said, hey, if you put too much pressure on him, he's going to fail. He's going to collapse, because it's not his fault that the global rates are this high for a kid of his age. But, overall, I think it was a good building block. If I'm Greg Berhalter, I'm just excited this kid has made the move, and now he's getting minutes, and then he's coming into camp to help us, hopefully, with that sort of, Jimmy, you know what it's like when you've changed teams or you've been given the captain's band or a different type of environment. You kind of puff your chest out a little bit more. You have a little bit higher confidence. Just like when you get called into the national team for the first time, you go back to your club and you have two ways of taking it. Either you're a little bit cocky, like, hey, finally made it. Look at me. I finally got the credit I deserve. Or you're like, I'm at a new level now and I'm going to set the new standard around me. And I feel like Ricardo Pepe has that type of mentality. Hopefully we see that response in this upcoming national team. I'm sorry, that was a long response.
No, it's fine.
What was your take on
Well, no, before I get into my take, he actually made some comments after the game, and he had an interesting quote. But before we get there, make sure you hit subscribe, hit like, leave us a comment. Let us know how your thoughts or how you're feeling about the U.S. Men's National Team this particular week. And tell us from 0 to 10 how excited you are that Dwayne de Rosario is joining us today, Canadian national team legend. If it's not a 10, I'm going to have some strong words for you after the show. It's got to be a 10. 10 out of 10 that Dwayne de Rosario is here. And then, of course, if you're listening to us, make sure you leave us a 5-star review and give us all the good stuff. I mean, type right now about how awesome we are. We'd really appreciate that. Now, so back to Ricardo Pepe, Heath Pearce. He said these. This is a quote. It feels good to be in his new surroundings. Sorry, I'm now paraphrasing. I'll get into the quote. Still has a lot to do, so that speaks to the mentality that you were mentioning. But he then said this. The Bundesliga is much more intense than MLS. You have less space and you have less time. You have to adapt to that. I don't know if you heard those quotes or saw those quotes or not. I want your initial response to what he said there.
Oh, I think it's a realization for him, right? And also a sign that I think he outgrew his role with FC Dallas and he needed a new challenge. He is a grown man for 18 who just turned 19 years old. He kind of overdeveloped quickly, jumped into the first team. If you go back to the earlier parts of the season, he didn't start the first games of the season, and then all of a sudden he exploded onto the scene. He's starting in front of a DP, had a great season, but it's his first full season in terms of contribution. So there's only one sample for him to go from in terms of what a professional environment is for him. And now he's come into the national team. That's a little bit different because everybody's on the same page. But you get into the Bundesliga, everybody's trying to hit each other. Everybody's trying to hit each other in training because they're going for bonuses. They're trying to get on the field. You're on the field against bigger, stronger, faster players on a consistent basis. The tactics are better. Technically, they're better. And so I think all of those things he's going to have to take one step at a time. So I just appreciate him recognizing that quickly of saying, oh, man, this is completely different than the environment that I came from. And I got to figure this out.
Yeah, I would add, too, that there's an urgency that Augsburg has because they are just on top of the relegation zone. And so every point, every play, every roll of the ball matters in a way that it doesn't matter the same way in MLS until maybe you hit the playoffs or if you get into the Open Cup or any Concacaf Champions League, where there's a little bit more immediacy and urgency to what's happening on the field. And I think that's one of the knocks. We've talked about this ad nauseum before, where how do you make those kind of 3 months into the season, regular season games matter more in MLS. Yeah. And I think there's a lot to dissect there on a future episode. What's that?
He's feeling that? Do you think he's feeling that already, though? Because, I mean, I remember I spent most of a season in a relegation battle, and you remember that every single game going into it. You have a goal, right? Points, a draw away from home, 3 points at home. But, like, you still had this added bit of pressure as the context of why those points matter. Mm-hmm. And he's in that situation now where not only does he have this transfer fee, not only does he have to go and prove himself, but he's also having to get points because the team needs the points, and you can feel the pressure from the fan base, from the club. Right. You feel it in the locker room, and all of that stuff, like you said, is different than what he came from, which is like, you can go 5-6 game stretch if you're FC Dallas, and if you hit a 3 or 4 game stretch of wins, you're right back in the playoff picture, and everything's fine and everything's good again. Whereas there, he's having to make up for some stuff that he wasn't even part of earlier on in the season. So, I mean, do you think that's weighing on him already, or do you think it's more of like,
No, I think he's saying the right things. I like that his coach is protecting him a little bit and saying the right things. And I think he's just going to get better and smarter. And this is really going to speak to him having to adapt. How quickly can he adapt and start to have more of an influence in the game so he can get higher ratings on kicker? Yeah, kicker, we're on to you, trying to throw the Americans under the bus. Now, we had another topic to explore here, and it was about playing time. Conrad de la Fuente was hurt and didn't play for Marseille against Lille. Conversely, on the same game, Timo Weah didn't play either. But I want to bring in our special guest. He's been waiting patiently. I want to get his thoughts because I think it plays into Canadian national team players as well. Let's bring in Dwayne Anthony de Rosario, 7-time MLS All-Star, 6-time MLS Best 11, MLS MVP, 4-time MLS Cup champion. The guy has scored more goals for the Canadian national team until Kyle Larin rudely tied his record this year. He's got 22 goals and 81 caps. Here he is, Dwayne de Rosario, everybody. Let's go. What's up, Dwayne?
What's up, gentlemen? How you guys doing?
It's great. Yeah, we're doing great, and it's even better now that you're here joining us. I'm going to ask the first question, then we're going to go back and forth. It's going to be a little rat-a-tat-tat, Dwayne, between me and Heath for you. Talk to me about Canada and their big chances of qualifying for the World Cup since 1986. That's a big deal, and I guess it maybe hurts you a little bit because you had opportunities but could never get across the finish line, not to bring up some old stuff, but you got a team here that I think is really special.
Yeah, and you know what? It's not hurting me at all. It's making me even more proud, and it's amazing place to be in right now. It's rare that we've had a unique opportunity to be at top of the Concacaf table. It's something that we never experienced before. That actually teams are coming after us, and we're playing with a lot of confidence, which is nice to see. It's refreshing. Sitting on top of the group. Like I said, everybody's gunning for you now. There's no more secrets. All your players are exposed. Everyone knows what we're about, and we just got to prepare now for the next few games coming up because they're crucial. They're crucial towards where we sit in the standings. If you look at that standings, one win for Panama or Costa Rica, Mexico, it could change like that. And so it's very important that we continue to stay on task and continue to play with that confidence that we're playing with. It's like I said, it's amazing to see.
Yeah, Dwayne, I mean, it's obvious how good Alphonso Davies is. We've said it plenty of times that he's the best player in CONCACAF by far, and I don't even think there's a comparison to him right now in terms of making that a competition. But for the Canadian national team, for Herdman's plan, for everything that they're trying to do, how important is he in these next qualifiers being missed? I mean, how big is his role, or how much will the team feel him not being on the field?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, a guy of his caliber is going to be is a huge piece of how we're going forward. I mean, he's a huge piece of the puzzle, and his impact in the game on and off the field, it forces teams to keep an eye on him, which frees up space for other players. And so having him not involved in this phase. It's gonna be put a hole in our team, but I'm confident that we have the players and the personnel to fill in those gaps. Would it be Alphonso Davies caliber? No, but hey, you know what? Here's an opportunity for guys to come in and prove themselves and prove that they belong as well. It's amazing to see a Canadian doing so well on the international stage. It's Champions League wins, and obviously you're playing with a world-class caliber team, a team that's firing on all cylinders, but he's contributing to their success.
Okay, Dwayne, so talk to me about, well, another couple players that are doing well in Europe outside of Alphonso Davies, and obviously we wish him well. We want him to get back as soon as possible. We got Jonathan David for Lille, and then there's Kyle Larin for Besiktas, who has now tied your record, as I said when I introduced you. How are you going to feel when he breaks your record? Because I assume he's going to break the record for the most goals for the Canadian national team at some point. Are you rooting for him to do it, or are you kind of like quietly holding it? Please don't do it. Please don't do it. Please don't do it.
No, I mean, for sure, I would like him to do it. And if he does it while we make the World Cup, that'd even be better. Records are there to be broken. I'm just honored that I was able to be in a position to say that I once was Canada's leading goal scorer, coming from where I came from, and it's nice to see someone that's coming from a very similar background, similar community, that's now going to take my goal scoring and hopefully take it to the next level. It's refreshing. It's nice to see, and I don't hold anything against him. I wish him all the best. Like I said, it's nice to know that if anyone's going to beat a record, it's someone like Kyle Larin. He just won another major cup in Turkey. So, he's going to be coming here with a lot of confidence. And you mentioned Jonathan David. I mean, leading Ligue 1 in goals scored. I mean, that's pretty impressive. So it's a beautiful time for the growth of soccer in this country.
I got to say, though, Jimmy and I, we don't like the old generations. We don't like the new generations. We're big-time haters of everyone. I don't know how you have such a smile on your face knowing the team is doing this well right now. I mean, I'm kidding for the most part. But let me ask you this, Dwayne. Did you feel like you obviously seem like you feel connected to the project of where the team is at now, right? That the groundwork that you laid is now paying dividends in the form of, one, your own children, two, the national team, football in general in Canada. But did you have that same connection to the generation before you in Canada, or do you feel like, because it seems like you have a really positive spirit. And I think for the U.S. national team, or at least in my generation, before that, there was always this sort of like disconnect or almost bitterness through generations, whereas now, like, people are super proud of this national team on the U.S. side. I mean, Did you have that same infrastructure for you?
Well, Heath, listen, I grew up in a time where anytime we played away from home, is like, guys, just bunker in and fight for, don't get scored on.
So did we. We just did it a little bit better at the time. So I don't feel like you were alone on that one.
Right. And I was a rebellious one, and I came in to change that. I never wanted to play afraid. I never wanted to play scared. I always wanted to showcase the talent. I want to showcase what we have in inner city communities, communities that have been overlooked. I know you guys can easily say the same thing in the U.S. And I was fighting for a bigger cause, and I really want to showcase. That's why when I went on the field, my intentions were just to score goals and have an impact in the game, a positive impact on and off the field. So when I went in the field, I had one thing in mind, and that's to seek and destroy anybody I played against. And whether it was Mexico in Mexico, whether it was Costa Rica and Costa Rica, Panama, US and US, it's now we're starting to see not only one or two, we're starting to see a collective team that's sharing that same mentality. Hey, you know what? We could actually go and beat Mexico in Mexico. We could actually beat US and US. And we've tied away from home in environments that we've struggled in the past. So they have the confidence. It's now continue to ride in that confidence, but don't get comfortable with those confidence, because it's a different US team that we're going to face. You guys are now starting to, I see, gel. The lineup's constantly changing. So guys have gotten many minutes, a lot of experience under your belt, where we've kind of kept a steady lineup. So it's going to be battle, and it's important that at home we set the tempo of the game.
Now, Dwayne, You are a 4-time Canadian Player of the Year. Congratulations on that honor. That is very cool. If anybody has any questions for this man, who's also been nominated as one of the 25 greatest players in MLS history, congratulations on that as well. And I should give you a shout out here publicly. My only MLS Cup win was when you scored the winning goal in extra time versus the LA Galaxy. Thank you so much for that. I have a nice ring.
Thank you.
Because of your contributions to that game. What a special team we had in that particular season.
You made Jimmy rich.
You did. I went from $20,000 a year to $30,000 a year. I appreciate you, Dwayne de Rosario. That was the old MLS days. Now let's put your pundit hat on. Let's talk about Jonathan David. There's a lot of talk about him leaving Lille at the end of the season. It doesn't look like they're going to sell him here in January or anybody else on the team. Shen Botman's another name that's being thrown out. Where would you like to see Jonathan David go after this summer? So he's primed and ready to go, because I think you guys are going to qualify for sure. And he's nice and sharp heading into the World Cup at the end of the year.
Well, listen, his career keeps improving. I mean, he's had a wonderful stint in Belgium. He's doing fantastic in France. And I would love to see him in La Liga or even in England if he could get over there. I know there's a lot of teams, Arsenal, Liverpool, a lot of heavyweight teams that have mentioned interest or shown interest in this young talent. And here's another great product that has come from our program that is being overlooked. Took a gamble, went to Belgium, and now everybody's talking about him. And it's just examples like that is great for kids to see, because it's good to see the great success story. He started in a top club in Europe, but he's worked his behind off. He's found his groove. He's found his rhythm, and I would love to see him at one of those top flight clubs, and in particular Spain or England.
Yeah, for some of the people that don't get to watch him play on a regular basis, right? We really focus on primarily the U.S. national team and their attacking players. And what makes, we talk about Ricardo Pepe and all the intangibles that he has to his game, but he's yet to really have a full season where he's scoring goals. Jonathan David, on the other hand, everybody knows his goal scoring record and what he does, both for the national team as well as at the club level. But what makes him good? If you were on the field with him, what makes him so good and so dangerous that he's scoring goals on such a consistent basis?
He has this special ingredient called scoring goals that you can't teach, you can't buy. He's just at the right place at the right time. And I know you guys are footballers and you get it. Like, he just has that knack for the goal. And it's something that he's very blessed to have. He smells the opportunity and he doesn't question it, and he attacks it, and where a lot of people second guess it. I would like to think I was a player like that as well, where people won't take that shot. I would take the risk and take that shot. And he's a player that takes the risk and takes the shot, and chances are it goes in.
Okay, I love Jonathan David. I'm going to say it for Heath. He's an Arsenal fan. But you said top tier club, so I don't know if you mean Arsenal or you don't, Dwayne. Where
in my heart, I'm a Gooner too, so
Yeah.
Okay, you want him to go. You want him to go. It'd be a nice fit. I mean, Lacazette's okay, but Aubameyang's on his way out, I'm sure, so it could be a good fit for him. What do you think, Dwayne?
It's a love-hate relationship. It's frustrating. Arsenal's so frustrating, It seems like they're gonna win and they don't win in the last 5-10 minutes. They're winning the game and they end up losing or tying the game in the last 5. It's a frustration. It's a frustrated team to watch. They are rebuilding. They do have some great pieces, as you mentioned. But yeah, seeing Alphonso Davies go there, I think if he goes to a team like that, he'll be inserted right away. He'll get the time to shine. If he goes to somewhere like a Man City, he won't get in a lot of minutes, or a massive club. He might be difficult for him to get time. So it's very important that him and his agent really calculate. It's always good to say, "Oh, I'm at Barcelona," but if you're Barcelona, you're not playing. That's not that cool, right? Or Real Madrid, or one of those, or even Liverpool.
Are you kind of quietly throwing shade at Serginho Dest right now, Dwayne? Because I feel like that's where you're going with this. Because Serginho's not really playing for Barcelona either.
But he did. He did.
He did. He was.
And that's part of the cycle of being a professional footballer. One coach likes you, a new coach comes in, and he has different plans for you, right? And we've all been through that. So he has to ride that wave, and when he does get his chance, he has to prove himself. It's difficult because he's not a goal scorer. Where when you get that 10-15 minutes, that if you 4 goals, just your product speaks for itself.
Mhm.
He's a fullback or a wide player, depending on how he fits into the formation.
I will
But a
say
player
though that
I very think highly of.
Yeah. I mean, by the way, I will say that in terms of what Jimmy said for Arsenal, Jimmy, I mean, Arsenal do have some decent. We're not going to go down this route, but they got a whole young back line with White and Tomiyasu. They've also got, Odegaard, who's young. They've got Saka, who's young. They've got Martinelli, who's young.
We've always had
Smith
players,
Rowe.
man. We've always had players.
But I'm saying, if you were to bring in, if you brought in a Jonathan David, like you've now got a young group that you're talking about 2-3 years that you can get some production out of, and players that are seemingly fearless and informed. And I like the narrative of that. But again, I'm with Dero on the love-hate relationship side of those things. Dero, let me ask you this: in Canada's eyes, who is the U.S. men's national team sort of danger man?
On the U.S. side?
Yeah, like who do you worry about the most from us? No, who do you worry about from us?
Well, I would just say for one, U.S. is always been very well organized. You guys do enough to get a result, and that's you think that you have the game, and then you always find a way. One thing I tap my hat off at the U.S. You guys always find a way, regardless. I mean, not speak last go around. It was you see how that happened, but usually you guys always find a way. I mean, I look at players like Pulisic. He's instrumental part of the team. Huge instrumental part of the team. Weston McKennie scored a big goal for you guys, against Mexico. You have Tyler Adams holding down that midfield for you guys. I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but Theosin, right? It's Theosin? Did I say it right? Theosin? You guys are saying my name right?
Which one? Musa?
Sledichin.
Which player is that?
No.
Yunus Musa? No.
Yeah.
Yunus Musa. Yeah, Musa. Yeah, Yunus Musa.
He's a player that brings in a different a different style to the team. So, but when I think about US, Pulisic is definitely top of my list, and obviously McKennie. In terms of he's coming with the national team, yes, he's had a little running earlier, but they've resolved that, and he's playing well. And Tyler Adams is doing a fantastic job in that midfield. So, those 3 players you definitely have to keep an eye on. You guys have a very well balanced team, and you have players now that have gone to Europe. So, they're going to be coming in with a lot of confidence, and that could be dangerous.
Okay, so one of the things I was teasing before we introduced you, something I wanted to ask Heath, but I wanted to bring you into the conversation as well, Dwayne, is minutes for your club team. Because right now, at least from a U.S. perspective, we're running into some players that are either hurt or out of favor, as we mentioned with Sergiño Dest, with the coach not getting a lot of playing time. How do you handle that, or how do you think that impacts how they play for the national team? Or do you feel like once you put on the colors of your national team, it doesn't matter what you did last week or before, you're ready to go because you're representing your country, and you know that you're so close to playing and qualifying for a World Cup?
If anyone knows, I know that best. I played a lot of I played a lot of national team years with guys that haven't been getting minutes, and it's difficult because the sharpness of your decision making, that's the most impacted, right? And in World Cup qualifying, that's a game of inches. And if you're not getting constant minutes and you're not mentally sharp, it's going to affect you, especially at the next level. So that will impact the coach's decision. It will impact the team for sure, 100%, if you're not getting a lot of games. And it's going to be a decision the coach has to make in terms of who's playing and who's not playing. And it's unfortunate because MLS is out of season right now, right? Are these guys keeping shape? I know you guys do a fantastic job of having camps and keeping guys engaged. You guys just played an international friendly on December 18th. So you're doing your part. On our side, we haven't been fortunate enough to get guys in and keep them, their game fitness. And if you look at our roster, we have quite a few guys playing in MLS that are on our starting roster.
It's funny, Jimmy. And by the way, I think you were talking about Jordan Sebachu.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sebachu, yeah. He goes by PFOC now. Playing in Switzerland. But it's Jimmy and I were talking about the last time the U.S. played was what was it, mid-December, Jimmy, on a friendly game outside of the international window. And we were really frustrated with the fact that Greg Berhalter played so many players long minutes when he had an opportunity for us as fans to see young players get a look, that players that we want to see break in, players that we thought had a chance to maybe slip in at some point over the next year. Now looking back at that, Jimmy, I'm kind of happy that some of our players who haven't played or wouldn't have played in almost 2 months got that game in the middle. Now, how valuable that is, I'm not really sure. But when you're talking about, like Dero's saying about Canada, and you're talking about a lot of those domestic players who aren't getting games right now, I think that's a really important factor to take note of. And then you add that to the players who are at their clubs and training and in season but aren't getting minutes. It's a very difficult time and to have that cohesion and match sharpness that you mentioned. Do you think that, because it seems like Herdman's done a great job of just motivating this group of players regardless, right? Going back to the Gold Cup again, where, I think I talked to you during this summer, Dero, where he kept saying we're playing it like a final, and it was kind of funny, and I kind of laughed about it. But then it became a thing and a mentality that they seem to have, where it's just a lot of that sort of tapping into that mentality. I mean, do you think that how much of that, I guess, plays a role in Canada's preparedness versus, obviously match sharpness and match fitness and all this stuff is really important, but he seems to have them believing in something that maybe they didn't before.
Listen, one thing about Herdman, he's a great motivator. I think out of all the things, did not take anything away from him. I think that's one of his, his key elements that he provides to. You saw with the women team as well, right? He motivates them. He gets them believing. He gets them playing for the cause, and that definitely helps. Now, again, I have to go back to, okay, yes, you put on that jersey. The coaches motivate you. You want to play for the country, but as soon as you step on that field and that tempo starts flying, everything goes out the window. What comes in next is your game sharpness, or your mentality. Are you ready? Like, no matter how passionate you are, if you can't get oxygen to that brain quickly because you're gasping for air and you're tired, and guys are coming with you in that pace, and the fans are cheering, especially in those tough environments that we're going to be playing in, it's going to be tough. It's going to be.
You're giving me anxiety. Of the times that I, where your breath is in your throat and you're like, you can't get a deep wind. You can't catch a second wind.
You're like, why am I out here?
Am I having a panic attack right now?
Right.
All right,
Exactly.
everybody. Well, all right, we're going to take a quick break. But when we return, our special guest, Dwayne de Rosario, will return with us to talk a little bit more about these big games coming up in the next qualifying window. Do not go anywhere. All right, everybody, welcome back to the U.S. Men's National Team Hour on the Qué Golazo podcast, brought to you by two of your favorite former U.S. Men's National Team players, Heath Pearce and Jimmy Conrad, producer Des Norris, and our special guest, Dwayne de Rosario, Canadian national team legend, MLS legend. He's got so many things on Wikipedia. I can't even read them all because we'd be here for another 25 minutes. That's how much he's accomplished in his career. Now, Dwayne,
I go there every now and then and fill in. I keep just adding stuff.
You should. I mean, that's not a bad idea. I should maybe start padding my own stats as well. But Dwayne, let's talk about this upcoming qualifying window, which includes the U.S. traveling to Canada to take on your boys in a very cold environment. And in fact, from a U.S. perspective, we're playing El Salvador in Columbus. It's going to be freezing there. And then we play Honduras after the Canada game in Minneapolis. It's going to be freezing there as well. Do you think it really gives Canada an advantage? It looked like it did against Mexico. No?
No. Not against the U.S. How?
Yeah, that's fair. How? We're preparing for it.
You guys do the same thing when you play Mexico. You play them in Columbus. We all know that, right? Ohio, you play them somewhere in the East. Guess what? We're playing U.S. in Hamilton. From all the places. I don't get it. I don't understand why Hamilton. I mean, we have a beautiful BMO stadium. Hamilton, it's gonna be. It's going to be cold for both teams. Most of the players that we're bringing in are European guys, right? The guys in Turkey, they're not playing in snow and cold conditions. Alphonso Davies, unfortunately, is out of the question. But who do we have? In France, they're not playing in the conditions that. So it's going to be cold for both teams. I don't think it's going to help either or, right? Well, you guys play indoor on the East Coast.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but the U.S. is also playing their games, as Jimmy mentioned, Columbus and Minnesota, and as you mentioned, we're playing against El Salvador, and we're in Columbus, and then Honduras in Minnesota. And again, I'm like, okay, I get it on some level, but at the same time, doesn't it seem like at a certain level of cold, it levels the playing field for everyone, as opposed to being like, okay, we're better than Honduras. Let's play. I'm not saying go and play in an area where it's all Honduran fans, but there's plenty of good pitches where you can play quality football and beat Honduras with the advantages of being just a better national team or better players on the field than having to go somewhere cold and use that as like, it feels like it's all like the U.S. We've argued over this quite a bit, that the U.S. is doing the same thing, trying to create these advantages when the advantage is just that they're a better national team and they should win those games at home and play in a place that, you know, you're going to have a good turnout for your fans, but you don't need to add the cold as an element. Do you agree, or do you feel differently?
Yeah, I 100% agree. If it's Mexico and a team that, you know, I would have to say, with all due respect to Honduras, and I'm sorry, Andy Nahar, a friend of mine, but I've never seen a Honduras side like that. You know, this Honduras team is really, really struggling. You know, I've always seen Honduras has always been at the top. They've always been right there knocking at the door. And I don't think this Honduras team you need to be afraid of. You need to be mindful of, but I don't think afraid. I think you guys have far more quality than them. Now, is it Mexico? Then, yeah, I would say you do what you got to do to get a point or to get 3 points, right?
US should play against Mexico in Canada. That's what I think.
Yeah, but but the thing is, we're playing in Hamilton. Like, how can I say this? It's going to be interesting because it's not really a stadium. It's stands. It's stands on one side, stands on the other, and then there's open space in the middle, right? So the environment that the players are used to playing in on both sides is not going to be there. And not to mention that we're already reduced fans on top of that. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. I don't know if it's playing into our favor or whose favor, but, you know, I think Canada playing the U.S., get it in a good environment. TFC has heated pitch, so nice grass. Our guys love to play in that environment. We've proven we can play in that environment. We've played you guys and tied you guys
beat us there.
Yeah. So why not keep it the same? But I wish them all the best, of course.
Soccer USA in the chat says, without snow, USA beats Canada 3-0. We played them without the snow back in the first qualifying window. We drew 1-1 in Nashville. So I don't know if that's true, but I like where your head's at.
Yeah, but Canada drew Honduras too in the very beginning. By the way, that Honduras team, I feel like that was the wake-up call for Canada at the very beginning, where I was like, man, Canada looks a little bit like they know they're good and they think that they're good. And then after that, it seems like they went back to that mentality that they had in the Gold Cup of just like, we got to earn the right to play. We got to fight. We got to work. And then the quality will win out. And I think it's doing wonders for the national team.
What I'll jump in and say is that I did some research about the cold from a scientific standpoint. I saw this report about NFL games that are played in freezing conditions. And it says reduced temperatures cause the body to burn glucose 5 times faster than usual. And that cold ultimately zaps the stamina, which means it's harder to expel the energy required for powerful plays. Now, remember, this is all based on like NFL stuff, so they're using NFL terms. Reaction times can drop by 45% in freezing conditions, which really, I guess, speaks to the alertness that you have to have. And then it also adds that cold air irritates the player's respiratory system, making it more difficult for them to catch their breath. It stiffens the muscles and all this stuff. For me, it's a battle of attrition. As much as we play in extreme heat at times, I feel like it's still some of the same narratives, Dwayne, where everybody's freezing and just like, I want to get out of this as fast as humanly possible. I'm going to make a few plays, but ultimately, and you've played in enough games to know 81 caps for the national team and 22 goals. It's between the ears ultimately is going to decide who wins this game and who doesn't, correct?
100%. 100%. Listen, I wouldn't say the environment, the cold, the pitch does have impact. You know, when we go play Mexico, we're not playing in like 6 o'clock in the afternoon or 7 o'clock. We're playing in the dead heat in Azteca on top of the altitude, right? And they're doing that because they know your muscles aren't going to acclimatize to that. So yes, again, going back to someone like Mexico, you'd want to play a team that you think you get any advantage of. And, you know, that's why we played them in Edmonton, you know, in those cold conditions, and just bring them into, it was minus ridiculous that day. I didn't even know it was minus 12, 13, 16 or something. But, you know, I definitely think the cold that you mentioned does have an impact. But like you said, ultimately, it's here. It's here because you block everything up. You guys know what it is. We've all played 60, 70, 80,000
Looks like we lost Dero. Oh, he's back. He's back. You know what? I know what he was going to say, Heath Pearce.
Oh, he popped back in. Can you hear us?
Oh, sorry. I don't know.
Yeah, go ahead. He's back.
Well, once you get in that pit, you tune everything out. Everything just you're focused 100% on what your role, your responsibilities are, and then of course, just staying engaged.
I like that. Hey, Dero, let me ask you this though. On with regard to the upcoming camp for the team, right? You play Honduras away, then you play at home, and then you play El Salvador away. I mean, when you look at that, you start to quickly realize that it's not an easy run whatsoever, because you have the U.S. at home in the middle, right, which is a difficult game in itself. And then you've got the 2 away games against El Salvador and Honduras. And I like Canada's chances to get results from those games. However, you know what it's like. You've been to Central America enough times. You know that at any given moment, things could just go awry, and you've got to be able to have that maturity to be able to manage things that you can and can't control. I mean, when you look at that window, I mean, how many points do you think the team needs to get? And what do you look at as failure or jeopardy in terms of, okay, these are 3 games, 9 points on the line. I mean, what's the amount of points that Canada needs to get out of this?
Maximum points. I mean, Heaps, you look at the standings. We're not gunning far ahead. I mean, every team is close in the mix. I mean, like I said, 1 loss and a couple wins, or a win from Panama and Costa Rica nipping at our heels. Mexico, we're back down. We're back into the 3rd, 4th place, fighting to try to get back in. So it's we can't afford to give. We have to take points while we can. And I know I mentioned this is probably the weaker Honduran side I've seen as long as I've played. But that's something that can be dangerous, because now you're going in there to Honduran team that knows that they have to prove themselves. You know how their countrymen are when it comes to this sport. They're diehards. They're not going to take nothing less than beating Canada. So us going in there in Honduras, in their minds, to get 3 points, they're thinking that is not going to happen. They're going to make our lives a living nightmare from the time you get in on that plane till you go to the hotel. You guys lived it. We've all lived it. Those experiences are hell on earth. They're gonna make for our players. How do our players adapt? How do our players adjust to those environments? And can they go out there, stay focused, and still get a result? That's what we have to do first and foremost. If we can leave there with a tie, we can go to El Salvador, pull out maybe a win there, and come and beat US at home. I think, you look at 7 points. I know 8 or 10, but we have to think like that, right? We have to think 7 points. We have to think 7 points. We cannot walk out of here with 3 points. It's not enough, or 4 points. I don't think where we are sitting at the table, it's going to be enough.
What's interesting is that Honduras are on the bottom of the table with 3 points, and they have to know this is the window. They either have to push right now and start to win all these games, or their dream of qualifying for World Cup is over. So that little bit of desperation makes me a little bit worried for Canada going into this one. To your point earlier about, are you ready? Once that game kicks off, are you going to be ready to go? 5-10 minutes in, like, holy crap, I'm in San Pedro Sula. It's like 3,000 degrees here. I'm struggling. Can we go out there and get a result against a very hungry and desperate Honduran team? I think it's going to be a big challenge. So I'm curious to see how that game plays out. Now, before we move over to Toronto FC, because I want to get your thoughts. You're a club ambassador, and obviously you do a lot of special things in the city of Toronto as well. And you just wrote a book, by the way. I can't wait to hear a little bit more about that. There was a good question from somebody in the chat, and I wanted to get your answer on this. And it said, against the best teams in the world, this is from Will, what styles of play should the U.S. and Canada play? Because once we get into the World Cup and qualify, we're not necessarily the top dogs anymore in our region. We have to bite and scratch and fight to probably get to the knockout rounds. Do you think that Canada and what you've seen from the U.S. will have to adjust to really try to? You think it's per opponent, or do you think John Herdman is the type of manager like, we're going to play the way that we play and we'll tinker a little bit, but nothing too crazy?
Yeah, I think you have your style of play. I think within that style, you would tinker a little bit and adjust according to who you're playing against, right? You got to listen. You're if you're playing Germany in a World Cup, or you're playing Brazil or one of those teams, you got to adjust a little bit, right? You got to respect your opponent, but not to the fact where you're just bunkering in. To the fact where you maybe adjust, move a player here. No different than the U.S. When you look at your roster, you've moved so many players around the place. McKennie one day is a midfielder, then he's going to defense. He's moving all around.
Right.
When I look at the roster, it's constantly changed. Like almost every game, there's been a different roster. So you have to be adaptable when you're playing in a World Cup competition. So to answer your question, I think you go with the same formation, but you just adjust maybe personnel.
Shifting over to the club level with Toronto FC, what's your take on the Insigne signing, Bob Bradley's arrival, obviously Michael Bradley being in the club? I mean, what's the overall sort of energy at the club right now? And then how has that changed with the Insigne signing? And what success or lack thereof do you expect him to have while he's at the club?
Well, I could tell you something. Everyone's excited. The energy at the club, everything's locked down here, so there's nothing really going. There's nothing really happening. But from the media, from the fans, it's definitely helping to draw the attention back to Toronto FC. Last year was a difficult year, as we all know. So hopefully, we're getting a guy that's medium age, middle of his career. We can still get some good miles on him. He has a world-class caliber coming to the team. I think he's just going to boost the team up. When a player like that comes to your team, it's going to create interest from other players, as we see other players from Italy looking and taking notice of what's going on in Toronto. We do have a huge Italian population here in Toronto, so he's going to feel very comfortable. And how he's going to adapt to the MLS culture, how he's going to adapt to Toronto FC culture remains to be seen. But in no doubt in my mind, do we have a world-class player, and we're definitely we're excited to see him in the red and white.
Okay, Jimmy, wait. Before you ask a question, Dero, I just got to say that Canada, or at least Toronto, is the only place I've gone to where no one's ever said they were Canadian. Everybody, not one person has ever said they're Canadian. I meet people all the time there. They're Italian, they're Arab, they're Caribbean. They're not one person has ever said Canadian. But then now Canada's got a great national team full of that melting pot of cultures, and it's great to see. But I just wanted to point that out, that no one ever says they're Canadian when you're in Toronto.
What I was going to jump in and say was, do you think that having Sebastian Giovinco before kind of paved the way for Insigne to come, that there has been, and a former Italian international came over and did very well? And do you think that'll help Insigne adapt? Because I think the big criticism at times when big DPs, big names come over to MLS, you always wonder, how serious are they going to take the league? Because sometimes they come over and they take it very seriously. We've seen that with plenty of players. Thierry Henry, I thought, took it pretty serious. Wayne Rooney, Rafa Marquez, not so much. Danielson back in the day, not so much. But it seems like with Giovinco, he came in, and obviously his first season was tremendous, maybe one of the best seasons we've ever seen in MLS history. Do you think Insigne can come in and light it up if he takes it serious? It's always the big question mark.
I think so. I think the demand here is extremely high. I think you'd sense that. I think Toronto fans are very passionate. They let you know when the team's not playing well, and I think that's important. That honesty, it forces the players to look at themselves in the mirror and see, am I doing enough? And like I said, there's a huge Italian community that I know he's not going to want to let down. He's going to want to come here and show what he's got, showcase the talent, and showcase why Toronto is paying him so much. I mean, I think this is a record signing in MLS.
Crazy money.
So yeah, so you can there's no I'm coming here and I'm not gonna give 100%, or I'm coming here to get lazy. There's none of that that's gonna happen. He's gonna come here. I believe he's gonna do the business. He's a professional at best, and I think he's one of those players that wears his heart on his sleeve.
I think about TFC, and I'm friends with a couple of the main people from Inebriati, and I love the atmosphere there when the club is doing well. And obviously, as the club has continued to grow, the demand gets higher. I mean, how hard is it? How important is it bringing a big name player like that to bringing a fan base back, or is it just all about results and fight and the team doing well? Because it seems like there has been times where the team has lacked, and obviously we're in a COVID era that I don't want to judge it based on that. But when it goes through tough times, sometimes it feels like the fan support isn't there. But Toronto as a city is just begging for winning teams. And when teams are winning, that city goes off. I mean, how much of it is about winning or big names? I mean, what is the sort of, for anybody who hasn't ever been to a match in Toronto, what's it like there from a sports culture standpoint?
Sports culture, it's one of the most vibrant cities in the world. You mentioned it in terms of the diversity, in terms of, the culture, very proud city. This city's gone through some difficult moments, and we could go right across the board with all sports, very difficult, challenging times. And we've seen them still show up. Look at Leafs. I mean, we haven't won nothing since 1960 something, but it's always sold out. You always find butts in the seats. Most of it could be corporate, but hey, anyway. But Toronto fans, it's a different market. It's I would say it's your blue collar fans coming to it, and I think that's right across the board with soccer. They come to the game because they have a genuine love for the game. They're passionate. They come to let all their frustrations off during the week. They come to cheer on the team. They want to see the team do well. And to go add to your point, Heaps, is that it doesn't matter what big name player you have, right? It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, results speak for itself. If you have a successful team, it doesn't matter who's on the team. Your fans are going to support you. Your fans are going to love you. But you have a player of this caliber coming to the city. Obviously, the excitement's going to be there. You add that with the results, and it's just going to fireworks.
Well, Bob Bradley has proven he's got a great track record of doing very well in his first season, and I think I've got very high expectations of what they're capable of. Having Insigne come middle of the season, maybe that deters, maybe a rhythm that they established prior to him getting there. But when you add somebody like him, I think they're going to be good.
But you know how this league goes, man. From let's be honest, from May to August. Does it?
Yeah. That's true. That's fair.
If we're talking Europe, where there's relegation and promotion, then you of course that's where things get a little bit murky. But August, September, end of August, September, October. That's when the league really starts, right? That's when you have to be flying and going right into the playoffs on full flight. So yes, we're getting them midway through the season, but again, it's something that I know the players are looking forward to, right? You have, whether you're doing not so good, a player like that's coming, it's going to lift the team up. You're doing good, and you have a player like that coming on board, you should just, it should take you through the roof.
Well, you mentioned, Dero, this, how this league is. And I wanted to get your thoughts on Kellyn Acosta going to LAFC, leaving Colorado Rapids, who were the best team in the Western Conference, got there at the very last weekend to make that happen. Still lost the first round of the playoffs, which kind of speaks to your point. You got to be sharp at all times, no matter, especially towards the end of the season. That's when you have to be in your top form. Now, there have been some narratives being built by Colorado about how this was all supposed to play out, but Kellyn Acosta came out and said that's not how the story was at all. Do you sympathize with the player here and Kellyn Acosta and what he went through? We're going to get the tweet up here. Charles Boehm, a friend of the show, says Rapids were working on an extension with Acosta, but the sides failed to come to terms after years of European transfer rumors. Most of it turned out to be smoke, with the real interest coming from other MLS teams. And Kellyn Acosta responded, "This narrative is sad. Colorado pushed me out. They had an offer for me on the table from abroad and ongoing interest and opted to trade me." Do you feel like, based on quote unquote how this league is, because all three of us have been involved from pretty much the very beginning and seen a lot of things change, you feel like player power is changing for the better? Or do you still feel like we're at the mercy of so many other things? We don't really have as much power as we think we do.
Listen, I'm all for player power. I don't know the in-depths of his situation here, and I'm glad that the player is speaking out and taking a stand for himself. Because sometimes when you don't say nothing, you leave people to come to their own judgment. If there's a lot of if there's a lot of influence coming from one side and you don't get to say your side, then a lot of people take it for what it was. I've experienced that with my situations. But listen, at the end of the day, if the player has an opportunity to go overseas, or a player has an opportunity, he expresses his willingness to pursue that opportunity. The club holds you back, doesn't want to let you go. That's fine. You come to the end of the season, you've done well, you've done above and beyond what was asked of you. Now it's time to say, okay, well, listen, okay, well, I would like more. You need to provide more. And the club says no, and another club says, okay, we'll take you. Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Right.
Yeah. It's a tough place to be in as a fan, because you're supporting the players, But on the backside of the story, the player also has to think about his future in terms of, maybe he has an agreement with LA that, hey, if a European team comes, I want to have the opportunity to pursue that. And they said, okay, yeah, no problem. We'll allow that opportunity to happen. What I would like to see is, though, especially on the break, more MLS players doing exactly what they do in Europe, going on loan, go overseas, and if they could play, why not? Get them minutes, get them playing, and it just helps. I think it helps grow the league. It helps grow the relationship. This is not an uncommon thing. This is a worldwide sport that happens all over the world, right? It's just here, when you're on off season, you can't go here. They don't want you to go here. They want you to go here. What are you gonna do for 3-4 months? That you just sit. It's. I think we should start really. There are some players that are going over there, but I think if we get more players having that opportunity, I think it's going to open up the market even more, and more players going to want to come here, and more players from here. We're going to sell more players, and this league's going to really develop a lot quicker on and off the field.
Yeah, one of the things that I think in terms of a player power that's always going to lack is as long as that we run on a winter schedule, it's going to be hard for players to have as much power as they would should you be coming out of contract or be up for sale in the summertime, right? And I think that the more you can align with the European schedule, the more the power is going to go into the players. I think the flip side to that, and it's hard because LAFC is a club that's happy to sell players on, right? They're happy to move players, and they've done that consistently. But at the same time, we saw with Mark Anthony Kaye from LAFC going to Colorado, there was some interest in him and some other things. He obviously went in and got himself he's going to get himself a new contract, right? And get himself paid. And I think the one thing that I think players are getting now is if they're getting traded against their will, those teams bringing them in have to have some sort of plan to give them money, right? Get them paid. Right. Or they're having some sort of say in the matter. Or, now if clubs are planning to sell a Ricardo Pepe, he's already on his second or third contract before they're selling him because they know, hey, I want to get max transfer fee. So let's do right by him. Let's give him a new deal. Let's give, Paul Arriola $1 million a year. Let's give Jordan Morris $1 million a year. Guys that are breaking into the national team, let's pay them knowing that the valuation now increases of what we can charge for them and extend the contract out so we can charge for that, which is putting some putting power into the players who have at least mitigating the risks of not getting to do what you want when you want. You're at least mitigating that financially. And I think that's a very powerful tool in the growth of our league for players.
100%. We have to start rewarding our own, right? We have to. We can't keep waiting till a European team comes and buys him for a ridiculous amount of money. And then, reward our own players, our own local talents that we've developed and grown. And like you said, their value goes up, right? Especially if you play with the national team, you can't be looked at. It doesn't matter how old you are. If you're playing with the national team and you get into the national team pool, the national team has to understand and the league has to understand there's a commitment there now, right? You're not no more like you're a national team player. So everybody's looking you up here. So you have to match that same value and lift it up towards what that player is achieving.
Okay, so Dwayne, before we let you go, you wrote a book.
Yes,
Dayro, My Life. What inspired you, one, to write this book? And second, what are any juicy details that you can share with us? That's second. Third, where can we purchase said book so that we can go out there and learn more about your incredible life?
That's a lot of questions, man. You know me. I only have one at a time. Yes, I wrote my own book called Dayro, My Life, and exactly what the title says. It's about my life, my journey, and it's hopefully used as a motivational tool for kids, all walks of life that have gone through, ups and downs, ebbs and flows, whether through their career and their personal life, and how I was able to use that as motivation, as fuel towards my passion and my desire to become successful and make it in this sport through all the trials and tribulations. So it's a book about my journey. I go in depth of obviously the longest stint of my career in MLS, but I've also talked about my European experience as a young kid aspiring to play professional. So, I talk about a lot of things in the book that I haven't spoken about. I don't want to give too much out there because, I want you to read the book and to go into it and send me your comments. Tell me what you think about the book. But there's a lot of experiences that I spoke about, playing with the Quakes and what that was like. As you mentioned, we had a good team. I felt that a lot of those teams, when you look at those players, I still think, Prince, in our young age, we could still compete, if not win a cup today with that same players because of our experience. We had a great balance of experience and of youth coming in that wanted to prove themselves. With myself, Landon, of course, and then I'm looking up at guys like Cerritos and Eklund and Agus, guys that have played a national team, and it was a great balance. And I think our coaching staff did a good job of finding that right balance and letting us play and express ourselves openly and freely. So, but I do talk about a lot of my upbringings that a lot of times I've never shared with anyone. That's in that book, and some juicy stuff is in there for sure.
I love it.
I like that. And we can get that on Amazon, on everywhere that you can get.
Chapters, Amazon. You can get it online. Most major publishing bookstores. You get my copy of my book.
I like that. Dero, I when I was up filming with you a few years ago up in Toronto, and you had your kids around, and one of your children is now playing professionally.
That's correct.
Has he read your book?
He's
did the family get? Did the family get to go through it all?
I don't need to read this
exactly.
I've heard it.
Listen, kids. I'm just a dad. I don't know. I'm just a dad. I'm an Uber dad. I pick up and drop off. That's it. That's my role of responsibility. But yes, I'm a proud father. My son is playing in Ukraine at the moment. Ruk Lviv, he's playing there right now, and I'm very proud of him. He loves the game. He's pursuing his passion for the sport. And I'm very happy for him. I have another son that's a goalkeeper that signed with Toronto FC, who's about to embark in his career. He's 17 years old. And then I got my little guy that's with my academy here, Dero TFC, who's playing with my academy. And of course, my oldest is my daughter, 24, and she's living her best life, following her passion and being a beautician, and proud dad. What can I say?
That's it. That's all you got. By the way, you must maybe be able to relate to Zinedine Zidane and Jurgen Klinsmann, who had kids that were goalkeepers. Is it weird to have a kid that wanted to play goalkeeper? Because my daughter wants to play goalkeeper as well. I'm like, I don't even know you. Like, what are you even talking about? Goalkeepers are crazy, man.
I felt the same. I had to check the blood and make sure it was identical, because I got goalkeeper. So I put him in the net and I started taking some rocket shots, and he's diving. I'm like, oh damn, I'm almost hitting him. And then I said, okay, put on the gloves. And now I love it, because one thing is always hard to find is a goalkeeper. So if I go to a field, like, go in net. He doesn't want to go in net anymore. I'm like, no, man, you pick that position, you go in net, you catch my balls now. So
I love it. I love it.
Amazing.
You always got to go.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. Everybody go buy his book, Dero, My Life. Go give him all the love and adoration that he deserves on all the social media platforms, including our chat right now. Dwayne, thank you so much again for your time. Good luck to Canada. We definitely hope that you guys qualify for your first World Cup since 1986. We know that would be very special for you, all the players in the country, of course, and it'll help continue to develop the game in a meaningful way north of the United States. And keep being you, man. You're a special guy, and we appreciate being friends with you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for this opportunity. And hey, there's a lot of room for everyone, man. Why can't we both go to the World Cup together?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Hey, don't worry. If it doesn't work this time,
US second, why not?
No. Hey, Dero, listen.
Whoa.
Listen, if you have a couple rough camps from here and the team doesn't make it, don't worry, because 2026, everyone in the world gets to go to the World Cup.
That's right. And we get to host. We don't even need to qualify.
It's in the 40s and 50s. We're gonna have 128 team World Cup someday. So it's coming,
gonna be
man.
amazing. All right, everybody, we appreciate you hanging out with us for the U.S. Men's National Team Hour. So on behalf of our producer, Des Norris, Heath Pearce, Dwayne de Rosario, I'm Jimmy Conrad. Make sure you hit like and subscribe, leave comments, turn on your notifications, leave us a 5-star review. You guys know the deal. We'll see you next week. Thanks for watching and listening. Later.